Stand-up comedy scene is on a boom in India. With the emergence of various linguistic dialects in which these routines are performed, stand-up comedy scene has become extremely diverse. We have here Mr. Aditya Mohan Agarwal, an avid consumer of stand-ups, and we are going to talk about how Indian stand-up scene has been and how language impacts it. So, which languages of stand-up do you actually prefer to watch?
Do I prefer to watch? It really depends on my mood. Like more than language, I see like artists and like actual stand-up comedians that I might like, or maybe the show. Like I like Hindi and English both, but some comedians that I think really like utilize language are like one is Zakir Khan. Like he has real emphasis on the language that he uses. He has like great hold over it. So he very tactfully uses language in his like stand-up routines, and the other like in terms of English, I would think like Dave Chappelle, you very like cleverly uses language in his like he has a great command over English. So like and like not just his English, like not just like over general English, he has like a good command over like the audience that he like caters to. Like he has like hood wala slang in his language. So that really helps build relatability in his like routine. So these are like two different languages with two other comedians that utilize language very well, I think.
Okay, so you mean to say that you consume both
Yeah,
Hindi and English? Okay. So, like, what are your favorite comics in both? Okay, you just mentioned Hindi Zakir Khan and English Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, I wouldn't call Dave Chappelle my favorite like English comedian. I like personally, I do really like Hassan Minhaj as well. Like since he's Indian, I find a lot of his content like quite relatable, and also just I love the way he like just tells stories. Like more than comedy, I really like in like terms of stand-up routines. I do like storytelling more than just like typical comedy where you just like doing crowd work and like maybe like just as adding punchlines every other second. I like Bussy that way. He like conveys a story through all of his like routine. Anecdotal comedy is like the way to go. Even Hassan Minhaj, like in his like two specials in Netflix that he has uploaded, like both of them like tell major like stories that are part of his life. And being an Indian American, like it like to a degree, it feels really nice watching him do all of that. Patriot Act was one of my like favorite like TV shows that included comedy, but also like had a like they were telling news, but in a very like funny and bold way. So it was something very refreshing to see after a very long time.
Fine. So you mentioned like you consume English stand-up comedy. You mentioned specifically Dave Chappelle, Hassan Minhaj, people like this. So these are American stand-up comics. In India, English stand-up comic scene is booming with emergence of comedians like Abish Mathew, Kenny Sebastian, Rahul Subramaniam. So, do you consume Indian English stand-up comedy as well?
Yeah, I remember watching like a like skit kind of thing almost with what's his name, Kenny Sebastian and one other guy. What's his name? There, I think I'm forgetting the name.
Naveen Richard.
Not Naveen Richard, not Rahul Subramaniam as well. But like basically Kenny Sebastian had like a sketch kind of thing. I can't seem to remember the name, but it was just like the two of them, Kenny Sebastian and the other guy, like just interacting with each other in funny ways, and it was entirely shot in English. Like the audience for that is like huge in India because like India is one of the largest English speaking countries in the world, and especially like with language, I do think like comedy also differs to a degree. Like I've seen more like Hindi stand-up comics like be like I don't know if I can use the word, like nature compared to English comics, and like Indian English comics. Like Indian English comics are quite tame compared to a lot of like Hindi comics. They tend to be like more like bold in their statements. Like whereas I've seen like stand-up comedy routines of Kenny Sebastian and like Rahul Subramaniam and all, they're like quite family friendly and all. So I feel like they cater to a much like wider wholesome audience compared to like other comics in India. Like that use Hindi, they're like more for like adult or like even like young adult like boys Hindi, like overall that kind of vibe, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. So just a minute, I forgot my question. So like crowd work is a big part of stand-up in most of the parts of the world. We have seen crowd work geniuses like Matt Rife do English stand-ups. In India, where every region you go, there's different crowd. Crowd speaks different languages. People like Bussy and all, I've noticed a trend that if Bussy does a crowd work, it is only in northern part of the country.
Yeah.
He won't do a crowd work in Bangalore, he won't do a crowd work in Chennai. He would perform his normal routine and just leave. So do you think crowd work mein you need bilingual, you need to be bilingual, or because like Rahul Subramaniam, if he does a crowd work in Bangalore, it will be entirely in English. Bussy does a crowd work in northern regions, it will be entirely in Hindi. So do you think bilinguality would enhance the crowd work of these comedians?
Well, of course, it's more about the demographic as well. Like, if you're talking to a mostly English-speaking audience, then you would need to talk in English to communicate with them. So, like as you mentioned, Rahul Subramanian mostly does this like crowd work in English, and I think most of his stand-up routines are also in English with like a bit of Hindi, because Hindi is like widely understood, and so is English. So these are two major languages spoken in India. So bilinguality like comes as nature of being a comic, I feel, in India. Although like purely Hindi comics may not necessarily need to utilize a lot of English, I do think a lot of English comics do use like Hindi here and there, which it comes naturally as Indians in your language. So I feel like that is a huge part. But also crowd work is more about the crowd, and since like crowd differs from city to city, you'll have to speak the language of the city to get to the people of the city. So I think I think that matters.
Yeah. So basically, you mentioned that English stand-up comedians are there. We have Hindi stand-up comedians emerging. So we have seen a kind of disparity in audience. So like I've seen Hindi stand-up consumers would absolutely hate to watch Rahul Subramanian. I know their humor is subjective, but they actually hate watching, and they pass on hate comments, and like Kenny Sebastian receives a lot of hate for being a Christian and like doing stand-up routines in English. So, do you think these people have barriers growing as a comedian?
Well, that is tough to say, because like overall in like India's only I say like stand-up comedy scene is booming, but it is still hard to like make it big as a comedian. Like to like earn as much as like Bassi or like Tanmay Bhatt or like these like huge like Zakir Khan, like these people, the paychecks that they're on is like unfathomable for like a starting out as this comedian. So like stand-up comedy, getting into stand-up comedy, making it big is already a tough thing. Then if you if you talk about like specific as a language wale creators like Kenny Sebastian or whatever, they have been in the scene for longer compared to a lot of these new comedians. Like Kenny Sebastian, Avish Matthew, both of them have been like part of the Indian comedy scene before like Basti and all. And I think like a huge part of it was the advent of Geo. Like ever since a large part of India got online, the need for Hindi like stand-up comedy grew. So now I feel like that is more in demand compared to English wala scene. And these comedians have been there like since like before Geo. So their audience has been like a little niche, but like they've targeted and they know their group of people, and they've targeted them way before a lot of these other comedians. So it was easy for them to like, not easy I would say, but like still relatively easier for them to get a hold on the scene. If they were to like pop up right now, I feel like it would be again a little tough for them to like climb up the ladder with the current circumstances.
Alright. So I will cite an example of hip hop. I know completely different things, but like again a part of pop culture. Hip hop, we have seen a trend where regional artists, like people who perform in regional languages. We've seen Hanuman kind boom so big, and like there is Yoki and people like them who have actually performed in their regional language and have been this far. So stand-up comedy also, I believe there are a lot of open mics in like West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, where these people speak in their own regional languages, they perform sets in their own. Do you think they have they have an opportunity to make it big in the scene?
See, it's the thing is, to make it big in the scene, you need more and more people to watch you, more and more people to like you. You need the views, you need everything, right? So like if you talk about like being a massy like stand-up comedian, you need to appeal to the masses. Now, of course, like a Tamil speaking comedian can only appeal to like Tamil Nadu and like maybe like some parts of South India. Since South India is also so fragmented in nature, like every state has their own language and like it doesn't really cross through too much in other states, then it becomes hard to appeal through the masses. But then you see like South Indian films making it like crossing like figures that Hindi films could never. So you also have that. So like I can't really say as a particularly, because I don't personally know of any like I say like particular comedian who speaks in their regional language and is as big as the comedians I know. So I don't think it's happened yet, not to the degree at which like the masses that would be you and me would know. But I feel like there is potential with how like now even YouTube has like an audio feature where you can listen to different audio tracks. A lot of YouTubers like from the West have capitalized on this as well. Like Mr. Beast uploads in Hindi now, Mark Rober uploads in Hindi. So they are targeting like various audiences. So I feel like language is no longer that huge of a barrier because now you can literally get like for a stand-up routine you can get 7 dubs, but that again involves capital. So like to make it big, you need to like step up, and it's like a stepping stone. धीरे धीरे करके.
But I feel for like stand-up comedy, punchlines is very important.
Yeah.
So if you dub the original stand-up comedies, I think the essence of those punchlines will disappear.
I mean, it's like even with like writing, like in general, if you translate like a Japanese novel into an English one, you can't get the same like exact essence of that because the language is different, and like proverbs used in the language, just like even rhyming makes things like just sound more catchy. So you can't get that this is like essentially like exact same thing in a different language. But like that's why we have translators who know the art of translating well. So if you like read through like this is an example that's coming to my mind, not related to comedy, but just like I love reading a lot of Japanese like writing in general. So the way like Murakami's texts are like translated by a lot of these English writers, they make them sound very beautiful in English as well. So like I think more than just like directly translating like Google Translate की तरह just like phrase to phrase translating exactly, I think it should carry the essence of the joke, the punchline, and then morph it into that, because like the situation will be the same for like both the scenarios, but the way of communicating it might be different.
That is true. But like what I feel about comedy is it is the hardest thing to
like pull off.
Yeah, it is the hardest thing to translate, because for a punchline or for a joke to land, you need a build up. And establishing that build up in a particular language and translating it to another language is a big task in itself.
It is. So that's why we haven't really seen a lot of comics do this, like have these like audio tracks and all, even though the feature is available. So like I guess like only like Amazon Prime specials and stuff like that have like the amount of money that they spend on these specials, they have the opportunity and they have the capital to do so. But yeah, most regional comics won't have that opportunity. So you're right about that, yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, slangs. Dave Chappelle uses hood slangs and like which would appeal to black people, and even white people find it funny in some manner. In India, we have seen comics from Delhi use those slangs. There are literally millions of comedy routines you can find. They're like Delhi this, Delhi that, Delhi that. So people have capitalized on these slangs a lot. So what is your opinion on that?
Well, that is something I feel people like love relating to stuff firstly, and secondly there is like a sense of community that is built. Like if you know like a particular slang, even like meme culture and all, if you know another person who uses the same like terms as you, and it is not like a general term that is available in a dictionary, it is a term that you acquire through your culture and knowledge. It is like a basic signaling to other like peers of your like own group or like other people that if they are aware of the same slang as you, they consume the similar type of media, similar type of culture they live in. So you try to find people who are like-minded in nature through those slangs, I feel. So even in comedy routines, like when certain things are mentioned, like certain like I say West Delhi कर गया ऐसा होता है, like that particular like वैसा कुछ like entire genre of हो या मोमोज बहुत पसंद दिल्ली के लोगों को, anything like any particular thing that you might like understand and like see 7 other people say hopping on to that. So like there is a sense of relatability that goes with it. So even with the comic and the people laughing with you, it builds a sort of community. So I feel like that is very like integral when it comes to routines in general.
That is true. So now let me ask a sort of a controversial question. Language also involves some terms which are not officially part of that language. Basically, I'm talking about vulgarity, cusses, and all. Do you think it makes comedy funnier?
Well, to a degree, comedy, I think as an act was like it has been there since like the starting of time, like since the you know, ऐसे like even in medieval times you had like people in the court who would make you laugh, the pester, the joker, and now it has evolved a lot. But like hip hop you mentioned पहले, I feel like comedy to a degree has a sense of rebellion in it. Like in general, like it is it kind of goes against like the general norms of like whatever, like every comic to stand out needs to have a different view, needs to, you know, say something that, you know, like along with the punchline it needs to hit you, and to make it hit, like a lot of like taboo is involved in general, a lot of taboo topics are involved in general in comedy. So the use of vulgarity I don't think should be prohibited in any way in like comedy, because like you have comics for the masses as well, and then you have comics that can like, you know, that appeal to a certain demographic. So like rating that accordingly would make it like fine. But I do think like adding like cuss words or whatever, like just not like just adding them for the sake of it is different, but like to like emphasize on a lot of things, cuss words do act as like a very taboo, funny, exclamatory like
But I
point
feel
in real like
general
conversation.
audience use those cuss words, so
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
makes it relatable for
yeah,
them.
yeah.
That is also good. With this, I think we will wrap up our interview.
Yeah,
And
it was fun. It was nice.
It was a very nice conversation. So yeah, in that, with that, we will wrap our interview here. Thank you for
very much.
tuning in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.